Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another normal survivals run. We did get a good PB. This was actually recorded about 2 months ago. Didn't get around to creating a video until now, but the good news is done with grad school. Sort of personal life is leading a little bit more time for streaming and uploading things like that. So hopefully we can expect a more regular upload schedule coming up in the future. Without any further ado, here's the run. Be giving some commentary over that. And once again, we start with roof. Definitely the the least consistent of all the levels. You'll see we got a nice one cone head preview in the in the run. That's always a good one. Where the first flag in particular, this flag can vary anywhere from about 2 minutes 45 seconds all the way up to about 3:15 or so. So really important to do this survivals first. Because he technically had a very slight misclick with one of the sunflowers, but doesn't end up mattering. There's sort of a few strategies that we can go for here. Obviously, the first zombie gets cleared out by the rake, but the zombies after that, you can either put all the sunflowers, the first six sunflowers, in two columns and basically let one of the zombies go to an early mower. But you can see I play a slightly safer strategy here of basically letting the second zombie, the second wave, come to his death with a potato mine. I really found that that was sort of much more consistent. Just help me get some runs going and so forth. Technically, using the lawnmower can be a little bit faster, even though you do have to replace all of the flower pots. But basically, this strategy allows us to still relatively easily, most of the time, get that third zombie killed by a gloom shroom. You can see I was helped by a little bit of good RNG with the with the zombie being a little bit slow. If that hadn't happened, would have maybe had to use a squash or potentially even a reset. But again, was able to get 10 sunflowers out, which is more than the normal sort of 8 to 9 that you would normally get. So again, helped out by some good early sun RNG there. Fortunately, get a cone head here. This is always a little bit slower than just killing it via the squash, but again, we have a good solution for that as well. You can see playing a little bit proactive here, figuring that probably by about wave 5, maybe 6. Or 7, we'll be expecting to get some good value out of that potato mine, and really just sort of looking to get 50% rules in the in the meantime. You can see we actually do get some great value there. And this what I really like about this is that it sets us up perfectly. We don't really need the extra flower pot to get the second gloom out, which we do right here by the seventh wave, which is a little earlier than we otherwise might have seen it. And you can see at this point, really, it's just a matter of sort of getting as many sunflowers down as we possibly can, and getting prepared for the final wave. So you can see it's not going to be a 2:45, which is really good flag time, but nevertheless, this is still very good. You can place the Doom Shroom in one of two spots. This was a slightly more aggressive spot, but you can also place it one column back to basically guarantee that you get all the zombies. But what I like about this spot is it does mean that then later in the run we'll be able to reuse that spot for another for another Doom spot. Very slight hiccup there with some plant selection, maybe cost a second or two, not necessarily the end of the world, but doing that. Again, I've been a fan. There's sort of a few strategies you can take on the second flag here. I tend to like using the umbrella leaf. Reason being is that if you get zombies that are basically in the fifth column, sort of either the first row or the fifth row, the doom and the final wave is not guaranteed to hit them. So again, I really like having the umbrella leaf. You could argue that maybe only one umbrella leaf is necessary. The bottom one is more valuable than the top one, and they do take up space that you could otherwise devote to to torchwoods or magnets or things like that. But again, I think this is a good balance for a all survivals run as opposed to going for something, an individual level record or something like that. I feel like this is a good balance between safety and consistency. See a little bit of a mistake there. I was trying to figure out if I could quite greed that out and realized I really just couldn't. So it was time to get the other umbrella leaf. Very important to have those umbrella leaves up before the final wave, since that's obviously where they get most of their value. Yeah, you can definitely argue another mistake here was coming up right here. I thought I'd be able to get both, and really should have just put the pumpkin right away. So that was sort of in the moment a pretty big blunder, and I was considering whether or not to reset. But then, as it turns out, on the final wave, lo and behold, we ended up getting we ended up getting some a couple of the catapults in the two rows anyway. And again, this was really, really close to sort of reset worthy territory, but where the first wave had been decent and the second wave, okay, like I decided to keep this. We'll again, ultimately ended up being a good decision, but I do think that I would be a little bit more aggressive here if I were to go to try to improve this to really see if we could shave off because I probably did end up losing about 10 seconds between some of the mistakes and the second flag, as well as now not having as much firepower and potentially getting slightly slower zombies here in the third flag. Although you actually see, I got a little bit lucky that the first three waves between the squash that I used and just not getting a lot of zombies in the bottom two rows, and also being able to get the torchwood out in the fifth row, really didn't actually end up losing that much time. It wasn't that devastating that I didn't have the third gloom, although this would have ended up being the fourth gloom, had we had things gone even better. So again, although we lose some time, each gloom now is probably only represents maybe about 15% damage and maybe only adds maybe about a second to each wave or something like that. So losing a gloom, particularly at the being able to rebuild it as quickly as I did, and it being kind of right on the ninth/10th wave of wave two, that gives us enough time that by the third flag or so on the next wave, you haven't necessarily lost everything. So again, feeling pretty good about the torchwood position, and you'll see we do a nice trick here with the gloom or with the doom at the very end to clear out the zombies very quickly. Again, normally the pogo waves can be a little bit slow, but again, I think I had a good mix here of doing everything else, and then again, we using the squash in the top row guarantees that any stragglers that we might have had that weren't in the doom's range that we end up capturing those as well. And then, sort of as another sign, end up getting a very good wave here. The screen door / newspaper rows or newspaper waves are definitely the fastest of the waves, particularly where I don't have a lot of magnets set up at this point. So with this in mind, I was like, you know what, maybe we do keep this. Maybe this will still be relatively fast. I would have liked the newspapers maybe in wave two, wave three. I mean, really, we could theoretically use them in every wave. And you'll see here, now that I have all the torchwoods out and things like that, I figure, you know what, let's be proactive. Let's get a couple of magnets out so that if I do get some metallic zombies in the next wave, that'll end up being okay. And we do get a little bit of value, as you can see with the magnets here in this wave as well. Pulling off that screen door means that our pea shooters are going to be able to damage those zombies and get some fast 50% pulls. So again, things looking on here. This sort of ended up being sort of a good recovery wave, I would say. Finish getting the last blooms out, and as well as a couple of magnets to sort of prepare us for the future. And you can see repair I wasn't worried about losing any of the glooms, but it is nice to be able to repair a pumpkin or two. And you can see, as a result of having used the doom in column 8 as we did in the first flag, we're able to get a really nice doom placement here and clear out the final wave in no time. Although again, without cone heads or other metallic zombies, it really was not so bad. And again, unfortunately, in the final wave, do get some more cone heads. Again, cone heads tend to be sort of the worst case scenario, with the exception of again, if you get a million metallic zombies and there's no and no magnet, that can be a problem as well. So what I basically decide to do here that you can use to at least save a little bit of time is actually basically sort of dig up, start placing the torchwoods in the 7th column and giving us an extra repeater in to be able to support behind it. And again, that's really good if in the final wave, and I'd really only do this for the final wave only, you're in a situation like this where there's really no metallic zombies to speak of, or even those that you have, again, we have a couple magnets, we have a couple the glooms are all out, so it's really not necessarily not necessarily a big deal. So other slight mistake that you can say here, really instead of taking the Gloom Shroom, I maybe should have taken an Imitator, Doom. You'll see that as sort of a recurring theme and something that I'll try to improve upon during my next runs. As again, space can be very tight, so there's not necessarily value. And again, usually I'm again really kind of at a premium for space in these waves, but it's particularly on the roof. And again, you can see there good value from having a proactive squash. I knew that there was a chance that that might happen. And again, nice to get that Doom out and finish this up in a pretty good time. Again, really, if I was going for world record attempts, I'd like it to be more in the 9:30 range, give or take. But 9:41 felt sort of good enough. Still an improvement over my prior PB. So I felt good about keeping the run despite some of the mistakes that we ran into earlier. So moving on to Fog, this is a level that I've been practicing quite a bit. Again, definitely the second most RNG dependent level out there, and of the normal survivals, and but luckily we've sort of managed to figure out, I'd say, nearly sort of solve the first and second waves as well, with the addition of the imitator puff shroom that's been used for a little while. Again, it basically guarantees that we can get 2 puff shrooms out for not only the first wave that you'll see, we put it in the same row as we do the rake, to guarantee that benefit, but in the other rows as well, so that there's never going to be a case where a zombie only has 1 puff shroom shooting it. It's always going to be 2, or even now, as you can see, 3. Well, you can't see, but promise you that there's 3 out there. Another sort of pro tip that I'd say is that very often the 7th sun-producing plant that you'll have that you'll want to plant should be the sunflower, like you see right there. With the exception of if the sun RNG is absolutely ridiculous, that you might run into a case where you're like, oh well, I have 35 sun, and so I should plant a puff shroom. But usually waiting just another second or two, you'll be able to afford the sun shroom or the sunflower. And same there, you can see with the with the 9th sun that you plant as well. That very often should be a sunflower. And usually, again, I'll try to plant the planter, and again, somewhere around that 9th that 9th sunflower as well. I was maybe a little bit earlier than I absolutely had to be here. And again, as we kind of approach the 8th and 9th waves that you can see, want to be ready to use the Tangle Kelp. Again, if you happen to get really any zombies, but particularly a higher hit point zombie in the pool. Very important. You can technically plant the second planter after the Doom Shroom, and you can definitely argue that that's probably what I should have done here. I was a little bit greedy, trying to get another Doom out, but I basically decided to put the Doom in a slightly alternative position, and again, sort of due to the way the zombie spawn did manage to catch them all. So that could have been a disaster, but again, a little bit of quick thinking on exactly where to put the Doom helps to solve that as well. Unfortunately, again, get a 3 cone head wave. This is again almost as bad as it gets for the for the second flag. You can see there in the preview. So a little bit of bad luck with, I'd say, in particular the second wave zombie spawns. But I figure nevertheless, that's what we get. There are cases where I've started, instead of taking the imitator puff shroom, I'll actually end up taking the imitator squash. And the benefit when I have the extra cone head, and the benefit of that you can see is that you're almost guaranteed 1 cone head per wave. And by having the imitator squash, again, you can't get one down every single wave, but you can see a situation like this that we ran into in the second row, ends up becoming much more manageable. Like, yes, having the extra puff shroom is helpful as well, but again, having the extra squash can really help to really help to save us. You can actually see I was worried about that planter dying, and so I knew I had to plant a repeater, which I often do anyway. You can see I got absolutely ravaged. I'd forgotten about this, again, until I kind of did the preview, but I basically got non-stop cone heads back to back to back to back. I think something 5 out of 6 or 6 out of 7 waves in a row in that second row. So again, that really cost us a lot of time too. So it was like, not only did we get the cones, but they all happened to be in the same row, and in a row where we really couldn't get a gloom shroom out very easily. So, but again, you can see did a really good job. Again, you really do have to be super diligent with these with these waves to make sure that you're not running behind. You can see we actually do put puff shrooms there in the sixth column. That basically guarantees that none of the zombies in the water are going to manage to escape for the final wave if they spawn as far forward as they can, which they didn't in this case. But again, maybe that'll help for next row. You can actually see I was a little bit. I forgot that I'd taken some damage on that lily pad, so the gloom shroom or the doom shroom was a little bit just a little bit late, but still pretty good. Again, considering the how badly we got kind of ravaged with coneheads, that I think that was sort of about as good as we could have as we could have done. Again, were I going for world record, I probably would have needed some better spawns there. But having gotten some bucket heads in the preview, you can see again I wanted to be very very early and proactive about getting some magnets out as soon as possible. So really making sure you have one sort of towards the top and one towards the bottom because they only have about a 3 tile radius. Is very is very important. There's no single magnet that you can place that will cover every single row. The best that you can get is about 5 of the 6 rows given the radius, but. You can see here, there's always a bit of a decision you have to make in fog. You can take the imitator pumpkin, but again, I'm not super worried about kind of the pool and things like that. You see, I was actually worried about losing the magnet, so I planted the cherry. I think that might have been a mistake. I think I maybe should have saved it for the 9th wave. Didn't really get that much value out of it for the wave in question, so. And I kind of, maybe slightly regret that decision. But anyway, going back to the pumpkins, very important to sort of decide, all right, do I, make sure I have pumpkins for the pool? Do I sort of replant the pumpkin for columns 2 and 5? And what I sometimes like to do is what I did here was you can actually see we did get a zombie in the pool. And I actually didn't end up needing the squash there. The zombies were fast enough, but that was more kind of a safety sort of thing. But and that if you have if you have a pumpkin available but 2 unprotected pumpkins for the final wave, you can basically hold off on it and see what row needs the most. Who gets the flag? Who gets a cone head? Does a cone head appear in column 9 in the pool, right? So again, that's sort of a strategy I like to utilize, sort of when pumpkins feel like they're at a little bit of a premium. But now that the defenses are much better, again, I sort of feel like I can get a hold on that too. Again, my goal for this wave really, again, especially given that we got more cone heads, this was really a ridiculous number of cone heads that I got in the first two parts of this run, but is getting down the torchwood. I often like to do the torchwood first in the row that has the pumpkin. Even though it technically has more defenses because it's defended a little bit by the pool, but you can see that those pumpkins really do take a lot of do take a lot of damage, and so again, it can make you need to replace fewer pumpkins as the run goes on. So. That's important as well. Probably should have put a torchwood, not a magnet there in the 6th column. I do think that was a little bit of a mistake. It should have been. I thought it was wave 8, so I was a little bit late in planting that cherry bomb as well. So some slight mistakes here. I think this probably could have been about 3 to 4 seconds faster if everything was perfect. And yeah, you can see here, didn't really have much of an option, so sort of just waited for everything to get on screen and then sort of doomed at the last minute. I knew that wasn't going to hit the top column, but I figure, you know what, wait for everything else to get fully on screen, then use the doom. That'll sort of clear out the pool, and we'll end up being okay. Again, a lot of metal you can see here in the preview. So again, I knew that really going to want to be sort of switching things around a little bit and helping to get some more get some more magnets out and so forth. Again, where this was the 4th flag, again, arguably should have taken the imitator doom. Again, really going to try to start doing that as as things progress a little bit further. But you can see, you can actually even utilize the 7th column in the pool in order to do that as well. I hadn't realized that gloom had already taken some damage, so a very very slight mistake there. But ends up again the overall firepower in each of the rows ends up really kind of being about the same, and even end up getting a good spot for the cherry and an extra spot for the for a magnet, which I think I put down in just a little bit here as well. In some of those, ninth columns that don't have that. Like, yes, it's probably going to get eaten, but really at this point, it's just about satisfying those last couple of 50% rules and kind of getting on with that as well. You can actually see, yeah, look at that. Every single, I've what 9 or 10 magnets planted there, and every single one ended up getting used. So another thing to be careful of in this one as well, making sure you have a cherry for the final wave if there's a dancer zombie. That's sort of the last piece of it. And you can see squash here just in case that ended up being out of the range of our doom shroom. Wasn't too worried about that. But again, 943, not bad. And it probably, for the regular time would have been in the 930s, sort of without the transition screens and things like that. So really a pretty decent time ahead of my goal time. Not quite as good as my prior PB, in which I can't remember if I got like a best ever or near best ever for fog, but again, feeling really good about this start. But you can see there's actually a couple of probably the biggest mistake of the run here at the beginning of pool. I hadn't realized that I'd forgotten to buy the rake before this run, so actually needed the rake for this level and did not have it on the on the first flag. So that ends up being a really big mistake. Potentially costing, I'd say, somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 10 seconds overall, where I sort of have to let this first wave go, and it's much harder to sort of get value out of the early waves if you need to let two of the zombies go. We really try hard to only need to let one of them go, so that's tough. Another little trick that I like is sort of leaving the fifth column open of sunflowers. Reason being is that in the second and third flags, those are the fifth row is sort of the first of the sort of outer rows that we need to, or outer columns, I should say, that we need to be able to plant um, repeaters. So like you're putting repeaters before Torchwoods, which would be column 6, and then column 7 tends to be kind of like a miscellaneous, maybe a magnet, something like that. So again, I really kind of like having that value. Had a little bit of a sort of tough situation to figure out what to do here. I think if I had to do it all over again, I would have tried to find a way to you know not end up needing to use that squash. Maybe just sacrifice the potato mine or something like that to see if we could stall out that zombie a little bit. So again, a mistake. Again, and this all really leads back to forgetting the rake, which again I would say was the biggest mistake in the run. Got a little bit lucky here that this conehead was very fast as it entered the pool and got hit by by the tangle kelp, but yeah, again, luckily not too bad. Again, this ended up being a little bit nice that just happened to get some good value out of that potato mine and the tangle kelp and things like that. But really, so many of them, sort of the issues with this level really all kind of stem back to not being able to get the not having that rake. Again, just really can't sort of understate what a big problem that ended up being. I didn't have the sixth column protected, but again, that we had the potato mine to take care of that. Again, trying to get a couple of last minute tango kelp as well as 2 sunflowers. Again, I normally like to have 2 more sunflowers if I can, but again, didn't unfortunately get that in this case. And again, I thought you can actually see my mouse hover over. I thought I had clicked on the squash, but hadn't. So again, another maybe 2 seconds lost to plant select. So again, yeah, this is pretty tough. I'd really like to be about at least honestly 20 seconds ahead of where I am now, and with 2 more sunflowers than I had. So this was again, this is a pretty big, pretty big mistake. For this, and once again got coneheads in the second wave. So again, coneheads are probably the most common, but again, it really does lose a lot of time compared to some of the other much faster waves that we have. Again, if I'd gotten that squash up faster, I could have saved a second there. So really, pool I would say is sort of one area where I feel like there's going to be some there's definitely going to be some time to save. I actually don't have a great gold split for pool either. I do have world record in pool where I got a 915. But you can see in actual runs, haven't gotten anything better than a 950. And yes, there's a little bit of delay with the level transition and the rakes and things like that, but still really have not gotten great value there just yet. And you can see here, wanted to be a little bit cheeky, see if I could, get that gloom out, kind of abuse the fact that hit points get reset you know, when you get a new when you upgrade a plant or replace a plant. So all well and good. And again, if I'd had a little more sun, I think I could have cherry bombed that ninth wave. Although I do get to save the cherry bomb for the final wave here, where I was expecting to potentially get a dancer, and I did, but didn't. But again, because of the misclick, the backup dancers ended up spawning. So really, just a lot kind of going wrong in pool so far, and I really am right now about 20 to 25 seconds behind where I'd really like to be, even in sort of a more conservative type of setting that we have. Again, more coneheads and vaulters here. Again, just getting absolutely wrecked here. Again, a lot of times I sort of have to decide between do I take the Torchwood? Do I take the Squash? Do I take the Cherry Bomb? And those decisions obviously kind of mostly rest on. Usually in the second flag, I won't take the Torchwood. You just don't have enough sun to get out the repeaters and Torchwoods for the second flag. Could theoretically forgo the magnet in the second flag as well, but again, I like to have an early magnet up in case you start getting metallic zombies right away in the third wave. And then the Cherry Bomb is pretty much required anytime that there's going to be a dancer in the ninth wave. Or again, I almost always like taking it in the in the second flag because there's a it's just with all the cone heads and not having that much firepower out, having that cherry to get like a double cone wave can be super valuable. So and doing a good job getting the Torchwoods out here. Maybe could have considered being a little bit more aggressive with some of the squashes. I like to kind of use the squash maybe around wave 5 so that I have it back by wave 9. That can be very helpful again because squash tends to have its most value in wave 9 or the final wave, depending on that. So again, having that extra instinct can be good. Should have again been more proactive there, realizing that was wave 9. Although I think basically the fifth and the first rows ended up sort of dying around the same time anyway. Alrighty. And again, luckily get some pretty good spawns here in the final wave. Things moving along quickly enough. Could have been a little more aggressive with the Doom. I think it was maybe just about a half second late. Not terrible, but still feeling pretty good about that. And again, wanting to get some magnets up ASAP. Again, and this is this is probably the toughest of all the waves. You have a dancer, you have metallic zombies, you have cone heads, right? So there's no like easy strategy on how to deal with a wave preview like this. Again, I'm realizing, oops, didn't end up using the squash. So again, nice to kind of use that in the first. Reason I kind of sometimes like using the squash in the first wave is that a lot of times, like there'll be some spillover damage. You can actually, I really like that cherry. Not having the cooldown back for the pumpkin. I think I actually potentially saved the gloom there almost certainly. So that was nice. But yeah, just other waves, right? You can kind of be like, okay, a lot of metallic zombies. I should focus on only magnets this wave, right? Or only this or that, right? So again, these waves, it's like you got to get everything. You got to get firepower. We're looking for another gloom if we can. We're looking for lots of magnets. We're looking for maybe some extra repeater firepower to help. Help give an extra little edge. So yeah, really a lot to manage. You can see here, I knew that there was a chance that the dancer zombie would appear in the final wave. That's why you can see I'm kind of having a little bit of a preview there. Really, what I should have just done, I forgot that I had the cherry, which I know is ironic, but could have just cherried there and then squashed the top row and then had the Doom off cooldown to be ready to use in the final flag here, which is really good. Again, another example of where probably should have taken Imitator Doom over the squash. To have a good solution for the ninth wave, but again, this one I'd kind of say was a little bit more of a 50-50 call. You'll actually see setting up a squash there because I usually put the Doom in the ninth wave on the very final flag because we certainly don't mind losing the gloom or anything at that point. I really want to make sure that that I have a solution if there's a really far forward zombie in the pool that appears in the pool as the ambush for the final wave. Having something to deal with that. Yeah, it's kind of the general idea. Again, I did a really good job getting some magnets out, so now again, really not worried about any of the metallic zombies at all. you can see if I had the imitator Doom, that eighth column would have been an absolutely perfect spot for it. But what can you do? So you can see here, I barely saw that Conehead sort of slipping behind on the sixth row. Nice to kind of save the glooms if you can, and really maybe it didn't even end up needing the Doom on the ninth wave. So clearing this out because um, we know we have potentially. Yeah. And you can see I actually adjusted the position there because I was a little bit worried about that column escaping. Should have put the squash there a little bit earlier, but yeah, you can see didn't even meet my goal time. Didn't get a very good pool time. Again, I think if I'm gonna if I'm gonna kind of make a push for world record in this category, I really want to make sure that that's high on the list. So um, really, yeah, you know, force a little bit of a better roof, a little bit better RNG and fog, and then really not forgetting the rake and getting a much more consistent pool. Again, I think that's going to be kind of key to potentially claiming a record in this category. But we'll see. There's a lot to do, and let's just say the second half of the run is starting to shape up to be a decent one. Again, I knew I was ahead of my goal time, which admittedly was for a 48:30, not for a 48-minute even or anything like that. And a little bit unlucky with these early spawns. You sort of have to guess where you think the second zombie is going to appear. Again, I happen to guess wrong, but again, luckily it was in a good spot where for the third zombie I could get three puff shrooms out in time, so maybe happened to make up a little bit of the time there. So that's not so bad. The other thing I'm thinking about very proactively is, I got very good grave placement, first of all, so that's nice with only one grave per row. That's about as good as it gets. Also thinking about Doom placements. I almost always want the Doom to be, again, kind of at eighth column, third row. And so kind of making sure that, again, I have a proactive solution to be able to, kind of manage the final wave. And you'll see what I do is because I'm using that, if there's a grave that I think might push a zombie a little bit, too far forward. Say that it was in column 6, row 1, or column 6, row 5. There's a chance that Doom may not hit that zombie. So you'll actually see I'm also focusing on putting puff shrooms, even if I don't think that those, column 5 puff shrooms are actually going to get used. Again, just trying to stay ahead a little bit on those ones as well. Really, 20 is sort of the mandatory amount of sun. If you can slip in a 21st or 22nd, that's great. You can see as I'm coming up to the ninth wave here, important to do that. So anyway, you can see, but you want to make sure you don't have the first few rows covered completely in Doom. So again, I like using that spot in column 3 because that will guarantee that the grave appears there in the open spot. You can see I get the 20th Doom down, or the 20th Sunflower down, and even managed to potentially slip in an extra one. Or did I get two? I really think I could have gotten a second one there, but even 21 is fine. And actually finally get my first, at least I'd say halfway decent spawn for wave 2, kind of heading into this flag. The trick is going to be, again, now the first couple of waves, it's going to be a balance of, am I focusing more on magnets? Am I focusing on squashes? Or am I focusing on getting that the gloom and the pumpkin out a little bit more quickly? You can see I play a little bit, arguably a little bit greedy there, but it does end up paying off. I get a really good spawn here, and now again I'm sort of preparing. I want to see what's available in the third flag. Do I bust some graves? And I knew again with a lot of the zombies there in the second row that I could kind of clear those out, a little bit more quickly. Really, what I should have done here was just was just put the magnet down there right away. Basically, used it as an instant, even though it would have gotten eaten. Again, unfortunately, with the two newspaper spawns here, that was maybe kind of the only time loss I would say in this particular row. But again, still getting some good value out of the magnet, and definitely would have liked a second one. Yeah, you can see I use it there again, even though the squash was available. Again, yeah, so probably some slight, just kind of, overlaps in judgment. And again, I just didn't see the bucket head there at the bottom. So despite getting a relatively good wave, I just didn't, and should have squashed that guy right away. I think I was just kind of like all over the place a little bit on this level. This really should have been 5, 6, 7 seconds faster, I would say, kind of no joke. Other thing you want to do is really make sure that the graves don't spawn in that in that fifth row. So having an extra puff shroom to kind of take care of that is going to be pretty important. Yeah, unfortunately, because I didn't have the squash available, ended up kind of missing out on the bottom row. Always want to make sure that you have that squash when you can. So yeah, really just didn't quite nail that second wave. What could have been very fast, could have been very, very good. I think I just didn't quite prioritize the right plants at the right time and wasn't, sort of decisive enough to decide how I wanted to deal with some of the bucket heads and the final wave as well. So again, same sort of thing there. We oftentimes get some spillover damage. By that, I mean sort of what you could see in the fourth row there, where the fourth row is sort of killing zombies from the previous row. So when the new wave spawns, you're already sort of doing damage to them. So sort of hence the, trying to use a squash in the first wave, just so you can kind of get the plants going, get the global cycles on par and things like that. And away we go. So really, by the end of Flag 3, definitely recommend having all the graves busted. It's possible to do it by the end of Wave 2, but I think Wave 2 or Flag 2 is more about, firepower and, just kind of getting getting your setup there, without any sort of glaring mistakes. So things looking pretty good here. Got a couple of weak pumpkins. So again, now sort of in that same position of, kind of how do I prioritize, this or that. I really can't remember. Oh, that the sunflower that I had there got eaten. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yep. So that's sort of the other thing that you sort of have to worry a little bit about is, don't not wanting the sunflowers to get eaten, because one more sunflower here actually would have been huge. So you can see, actually, unfortunately, don't get a great spawn there um, with the wave, and it was actually a little bit early with the doom, so again lost about 2 or 3 seconds there as well. So again, night, like, not bad luck, just like very, very, very fine errors in execution. You can see I actually really like this preview for night. Again, know that it just tells me magnets are going to be super, super important. I already have 3 magnets out, which is really good. So again, it really sort of helps me to get that, just kind of prioritize things correctly, because really getting 1 to 2 buckets, removed almost always guarantees you a 50% roll. There just aren't enough hit points in each of these waves to, really require anything beyond that. So you can see, I knew that a lot of the magnets were on cooldown, so I thought, all right, maybe get a squash, maybe get a little bit lucky. Of course, I wasn't lucky, but that's how it goes. And you'll see, I actually am prioritizing magnets over gloom shrooms here, and I really think that's the right call. It's yeah, the glooms provide some nice damage over time, but the level's going to be decided by how quickly we can satisfy these 50% rules. So yeah, again, I think it was I think it was ultimately the right move. Yeah, ironically, that's sort of my first gloom getting placed, but that's how it goes. Another trick: if you use the grave buster immediately as the grave spawns, the grave buster will not get eaten. So that's kind of a nice trick. Although actually, ironically, it did, because I got the flag zombie and a couple things like that. But 99% of the time, it won't get eaten. And feeling pretty good going into the final wave here. Again, very important, final wave, if you see a dancer, always make sure you have the cherry bomb and are prepared to use that cherry bomb as the final wave appears. We don't want the dancers spawning backup zombies or any sort of troubling things like that. So you can see here, unfortunately, don't have any torchwoods out, so I'm like, all right, maybe that ought to be the priority a little bit over magnets and things like that, but maybe getting the last gloom out too at some point. So again, little bit of bad luck. Again, just kind of really needing to gone all in, and honestly, again, losing that one sunflower like was a big deal. I probably would have ended up netting probably 300 to 400 more sun, over the course of these levels if I hadn't lost that sunflower. And again, that would have meant an extra torchwood or two earlier, the gloom or two up earlier, things like that. So so again, all that stuff, kind of has a funny way of kind of coming back. You can see here, I had to actually dig up a mushroom or a magnet shroom and replace it because yeah, you can see I thought I did there, but luckily it sort of got off its own cooldown pretty quickly. So here we're ready with the cherry bomb. Make sure we use it the right time there. Get our Doom up. Get a little bit conservative, but did end up getting a gold split. Still not quite at my goal time. Again, I still think I can do better. I think I can consistently get in the 920s on that level, but that's how it goes. Really more error prone there, despite the gold split than I think I would have liked. But that's how it goes. Anyway, heading into the day levels again, I got my rake. Life's okay, and at this point, I sort of know, all right, 20 seconds ahead, looking like I'm certainly going to crack the 48:30, but I knew that if I could do really well here, I might even be able to get into the low 48s as well. So there's some very subtle decision making that goes on, particularly in the first flag, which is definitely the most difficult flag here. As well, you can see misplaced that, meant to place that in row 3, but luckily didn't get burned for it, which is good. Again, we like letting the second zombie go, especially when he's sort of like a speed like this, not absolutely as slow as possible, but like certainly not zooming down the lane at record speed. So again, pretty good start, halfway decent sun RNG. Probably should have planted the prioritize the potato over that sunflower. But yeah, and again, this may look interesting, but we actually do squash this. It would take too long, about another 15 seconds for him to get to the lawnmower, and that's just too long to wait. We really can't stall 2 waves, and so I'm like, oh man, what do I do here? I can't wait the full length. Oh yeah, I have the cherry bomb, and that's really what the cherry's there for. Again, just as that like last second, truly get out of jail free emergency. For cases where we have a lot of cone heads like this. So yeah, definitely don't be afraid to use the cherry. Again, it does mean that I'm probably going to be a little bit later getting the gloom out, but again, that was sort of a small price that I was willing to pay, and I basically sort of had to choose here. All right, I knew that guy was going to die, and I'm like, all right, if I can just get like just a couple of hits on this guy, even if he doesn't die, which I actually knew he would, kind of planting the sunflower where I did, that would be good. So I could save the squash for a case like this. And so I'm like, okay, if you haven't used the cherry, you can consider using it for wave 9. And I was right on the fence here. I'm like, man, cherry's not off cooldown. I don't have enough sun. Do I want to keep planting sunflowers? I think I do. And then I'm like, well, that guy's already half dead anyway. So if I hadn't had to use the cherry earlier, definitely would have been a good idea to use it there for wave 9. But again, unfortunately, with that not being the case, that's how it goes. Again, I really like to get at least 5 columns of sunflowers, and sometimes again you can dabble into a sixth. If RNG is on your side, and making sure feeling a little safe with the Doom because I knew I was going to have to wait for that lawnmower to hit. Anyway, and kind of getting proactively those 2 rows taken care of for the first wave as well. And this is another interesting one. Again, a very, very probably the most difficult second flag that you can get where you have bucket heads and cone heads. So again, there's this like dire, sort of trade-off between, all right, how much do I focus, for a metallic zombie? How much do I focus for getting my glooms out? How much do I focus on, maybe a early cherry or something like that? Again, luckily my sun situation was pretty good. And again, the magnet ends up being the right choice. You can see how much, kind of how much time I stayed there. Unfortunately, I should have waited there because I knew I might need the cherry if there was a bucket head that appeared in the top row. So, a little bit unlucky there. And again, a little bit of a misclick there. Again, honestly, just a wasted squash because I knew I was, the 50% rule there was going to be from the bucket head, not from getting the squash off. So again, a couple of slight mishaps there, but again, luckily, with pretty good sun production, pretty good magnets, not behind on the glooms, even have a couple of repeaters out and things like that. Life's feeling okay. I was worried that guy was going to get eaten, so again, certainly no problem with throwing down an early or proactive, semi-proactive pumpkin there. And again, heading into wave 9, again, I love seeing the bucket heads for wave 9. Again, I know it usually means life's going to be life's going to be okay, and it's going to be a pretty fast 50% roll. Again, final wave, very similar story. Use either a squash or a cherry bomb to make sure you're clearing out all of those zombies in the top. If you plant the doom in the fourth row, you gotta make sure the top row is taken care of in case there's any stragglers. Yeah, and again, at this point, it's more or less, again, more or less. I don't want to say the time is fixed, but there's not tons that you can do to really help your time. It's like, all right, do you do a repeater here? Do you do a torchwood here? Not necessarily sort of the biggest of the biggest of deals and things like that. Maybe should have used a cherry on that second wave, given all the cone heads and stuff in the bottom row. Third wave was probably just about the same amount of time anyway. So again, yeah, not too concerned with that one. And really probably played it a lot closer than I had to with that top row. I had the sun and I had the cooldown. I must have just sort of thought, not quite realized how fast he was, and sort of what the implications would be there. And at this point, yeah, just trying to find that balance between magnet production and torchwood production. I think I probably overdid it on the magnets just a little bit. Obviously there are metallic zombies in this level, but it's not that many. And again, I was pretty well covered, I think, for the for the most part, and got a pretty nice ninth wave there as well. And again, left the bottom row open. You can see because we're gonna need the second row for the doom spot, and then making sure that there's a space to put either the squash or the cherry in case we miss or there's some tough zombies in the bottom row that that we miss. And luckily, really haven't had other than that one straggler I think we had in is it night or pool or fog? Maybe it's multiple of those, but none of those seem to be particularly bad. All right, yeah, really at this point, it's just kind of filling out, making sure, you're not losing any glooms. You hear me, Warmack? Not losing any glooms. And, getting the torchwoods out, making sure you got, you can start replacing some of the sunflowers with magnets in the seventh column, sort of once everything else is good to go. And yeah, just sort of, letting the level play itself out. That's it. What does that even mean to play us out? All right. Um, yeah. And yeah, again, at this point, really the setup's complete. Maybe a few more repeaters here and there, and we still do have another flag to go. You can see I ended up not doing a magnet in another magnet in column 8 because I know I'm going to need that spot for the gloom. So I'm like, probably doesn't make sense to waste sun. And there weren't really, well, up to this point, there really weren't that many, metallic zombies. You'll see I do something interesting here. I do dig up that gloom, and the reason is I think we had gotten a dancer zombie in the preview, so I wanted to be ready ready the moment I saw a dancer. I didn't see the dancer. So instead, just kind of do this. But again, I knew I had the all the glooms were off cooldown, so that basically re-upping it wasn't it was going to be a little bit of sun, but that compared to again losing at least 5 seconds because the dancer and the backup zombies really felt worth it. So again, nothing wrong with again sort of being really proactive with a cherry bomb there. And again, at this point, it's really extra repeaters. Maybe dig up a magnet or two if they all kind of get saturated. I guess we got another open spot there as well. But yeah, life is life's pretty good. And again, I know things are going to be good. I know I'm sort of in the like low 9-minute time period, so I was expecting to save a little bit of time, and just sort of had to really get my finger on the pulse of exactly how much. Yeah. Again, other thing to be aware of is with vaulters, sometimes trying to figure out, how do you handle the ninth wave, here can be pretty tough. I don't like using an imitator doom, although you can argue with the vaulter specifically that it might actually be worth it. Again, just for this particular case, because you see here like we sort of have to wait. All right, this guy's jumping. This guy's jumping. We get the squash, which I don't even know if that ended up saving time, but yeah. And then again, always make sure that you have a cherry ready for that middle row anytime you see a dancer in the in the final wave. In this case, we do. He was actually kind of a little bit slow, but do that, and yeah, again, get that nice. Again, I was technically a little early in the split, but it was a 48:07. and life is good. Yeah, so thank you all for tuning in. Really appreciate your tuning in. Again, if you give the stream, give the channel a like and a follow if you don't mind. We really should be pumping out lots more content now that school's done and life's a little more under control. That'll be coming up real soon. So until next time, take care of yourselves. Have a good day, and we'll see you later. Bye.